Coming up on Network Africa. Central African Republic's interim president, Catherine Panza, faces a difficult task ahead as she guides the country through its long-awaited presidential and parliamentary polls. Nigerian military promises to continue offensive against Boko Haram 2 days after 338 Boko Haram captives were rescued from the militants. And on our Africa Tech segment today, we take a look at apps created in Africa that makes everyday living easier, like the Traffic Butter app. Hello and welcome to Network Africa. I am Adeshewa Josh. As the Central African Republic prepares for its long-awaited presidential and parliamentary polls on December the 13th, interim President Catherine Panza faces a challenging task of restoring the embattled country back to the path of peace and democracy. Since 2013, the country has been embroiled in ethnic violence, which has claimed lots of lives and property. While the situation appears to be under control, President Panza said in an interview the country is far from safe. She's, however, confident that the people won the elections in spite of the violence, and she said out of 2 million people, 1.95 have already registered to vote, which means the people won the elections to hold, and indeed it will. All eyes and pressure will now be on interim President Panza to help the nation transition to democracy. Let's take a couple of facts about C.A.R. Fighting started in 2013 when Muslim rebels from an umbrella group called Seleka seized power in the majority Christian country. Well, Seleka handed power to a transitional government in 2014 under international pressure. In August 2015, the Transitional Council adopted a new constitution which will be put to a referendum 1 week before the elections, and Catherine Panza was elected as interim president by the National Transitional Council. She will now lead the country to the 2015 general elections. Finding a lasting peace in South Sudan has been the major concern of all stakeholders in the peace process. And like never before, warring factions appear to be on the same page on most of the issues, at least, as they continue to make compromises for the sake of the people of South Sudan. On Monday, both sides in the South Sudan talks signed an agreement to finalize the implementation of the security arrangements that were part of an August peace accord. But it might interest you to know that one of the underlying issues in the South Sudan crisis is the alleged non-inclusiveness of the warring factions. The Sudan People's Liberation Movement for Democratic Change, SPLMDC, the opposition political party in South Sudan, which currently has 4 representatives in the National Legislative Assembly, is calling on the South Sudan government for more inclusiveness in the ongoing peace process. Dr. Lam, Well, Dr. Lam Eko is the leader of the opposition party, and he will join me after this break on Network Africa. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, latest UN report shows security situation in Sudan's Darfur region remain unpredictable and precarious. We have details in a moment. Welcome back to the program. You are watching Network Africa. For our viewers outside of West Africa, you can watch the program on m.channelstv.com. We advise you also to download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS, and Windows phones from their respective stores. Tourism and allied businesses doing business in South Africa are cautiously celebrating the revised new visa regulations in the country, which has left the industry quite worried in the past 5 months. Now, some of the sticking points have been the issue of original unabridged birth certificate for children under 18, as well as personal appearance of visa applicants, even where South African missions are not close enough. Some concessions have been made regarding some aspects after the industry is said to have recorded losses on many fronts. Our correspondent Betty Dibia reports.
First, there was the burden of a global economic slowdown. Then there was Ebola. Then came the xenophobic attacks in April 2015. Weeks later, there came the new visa regulations for South Africa. South Africa has a huge tourism industry, and the ripple effect on that, as well as other productive sectors of the economy, will be huge. Add that to a lingering power crisis in the country, and the economy may just take a huge hit. And the economy did take a hit, according to Statistics SA. Players in the tourism industry in particular have been counting their losses.
With this new regulation, you find people who got properties, homes, second homes in South Africa, but they're not able to come here. And that's just been one of those sad things that this regulation has brought into our industry, into our economy.
Should like them to stay because that's where they're getting their client from. They're supporting their businesses.
In the year 2013, we sold at estimate of about 50 million rands from Nigeria alone to South Africa. And during this period, what happened is that number has reduced by up to 50%, or even below.
The government defended its position for many months amidst intense debate, especially the aspect on the protection of children.
If you are coming abroad, you are coming from a country where we need a visa. Like Nigeria, you have to submit the birth certificate together with the letter of consent. There is no change. The only adjustment which we have is around a parent who's coming from a visa-exempt country where we don't require a visa.
They said they're going to be issuing a strong advisory, and we said, what does it mean? So again, we're going to be sitting down and say, what does strong advisory mean? Again, so that we need to go to clients in the market say, when South Africa says they're going to be issuing strong advisories, they're going to be requiring, if you coming with a child, have either one of the following.
An interministerial committee has now looked at the concerns of many and has seen government shift ground on certain aspects. Industry players celebrate cautiously but hopefully.
On the whole, we're very excited. I think there's just a few concerns that we have, and the concerns really has to do with removing some ambiguities in some of the concessions they've made.
These things are split into within 3 months, within 3 months to a year, and beyond to a year, because we need to make a lot of processes to make sure that we've got checks and balances, and then we'll implement.
Of interest, especially for frequent travelers from Nigeria, is the likelihood of a 10-year multiple entry visa for business people and academics.
What a 10-year South African visa would do to a tourist would be that he or she would have South Africa as a country to visit and plan to visit at their convenience.
Some experts have projected as much as a 50% drop off booking number since May this year. Some project a 500,000 drop in visitors, which may result in a loss of more than 10 billion rands in 2015. This will include conferencing and conventioning delegates as well as their accompanying family members. The task ahead for government, as the industry attempts to claw back what has been lost, they say, is to do more to dispel the confusion and ambiguities regarding the revised regulations, as well as the speedy implementation of what has been agreed. Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.